Hi, this is Melissa, and I'm talking to Rebecca Williams. Can
Hi.
you let us know a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Rebecca and Rebecca Williams, and I help people communicate. Um, basically, entrepreneurs, business owners have a hard time talking about what they do because they're trying to explain their life story in one little sentence so people get it,
Mm-hmm.
and and usually they don't do a good job of that. So I help business owners and entrepreneurs and small to medium sized companies also. I help them communicate in a clear way so they can grow their business.
And what struggles do you find creative entrepreneurs have a lot of the time?
Yeah, so creative entrepreneurs. So I'm just gonna say artists because I work with a lot of artists and they are creative entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the biggest struggles I see them have as far as communication goes is they often say, "Oh well, the work speaks for itself," right? Like why do I need to learn how to communicate what I do or why I do it or the story behind it or the process? Why do I need to do all that? The work speaks for
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
But what I know, and I think what a lot of people who aren't artists would agree with, is that your work doesn't actually speak for itself. I think maybe 60% of it speaks for itself, but the way you really close the deal, you get the sale, is that you have to show up and be a little bit vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and be share something about yourself with people so that they can then say yes to what you're offering to them because people actually want to feel something,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Especially with art.
yeah, especially with art. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they might feel something when they look at your art, but then when they make that connection with you because
Yeah.
you're being vulnerable and being clear, then they'll go that extra yard and say, "Oh, I actually want to buy this thing
Mm-hmm.
now. I don't just want to consume it and walk away." So,
Right. So I hear a lot of times people say, "Well, I don't really understand it," but I think
yeah,
knowing the story of the artist helps with that.
yeah,
Sort of feel like you actually understand what the person's trying to communicate.
yeah. Do you
What
think people need to understand art? I've always been curious
some
about that.
people I've seen I've heard people struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't feel like I need to. I just need to like it.
Yeah.
But I've definitely heard people sort of, oh, I don't know, I don't get modern art because I don't understand it. And I guess,
Yeah.
well, you don't have to, but I do think that the story behind the art is, that's why when you go to a museum, people always look at the little card because they
Mm-hmm.
want to know what the story is. So,
Mm-hmm.
what tips do you have for, say an artist now who wants to start selling more of their art?
Yeah, I would really encourage, if you're an artist, come up with a cohesive narrative behind why you do what you do. Um, I've been working with an artist lately, and she came to me and said, "I need you to help me with my story." And the reason why she came to me and was so like determined to find this through line for her work was because she went to a gallery talk, and she looked at the work, and she was kind of like, it's okay, I'm not in love with it, but it's okay. And then she heard the artist speak, and after she heard the artist speak, she was like,
Yeah,
oh, I get it. And actually, she felt that she liked the work more
yeah,
after that. So she had a visceral experience of understanding in
right.
that sense, and so she then realized, like, oh, I need this too. So that would be my biggest tip is, you know explore, excavate why you do what you do, and find a clear way of
Mm-hmm.
talking about it that people get. And it can't, obviously, like, you're not going to go to a movie that's like, like the narrative arc is all over the
Uh-huh.
place. Like, no one would go to a movie like that. It's, they talk about the Hollywood formula. Um, I'm not saying, just be formulaic, but you do have to follow a narrative arc or people just
Yeah,
will lose, they won't get it.
it has to be
Yeah.
linear, cohesive story.
Yeah, and maybe not linear. The
Mm-hmm.
woman I'm helping, um, it's very interesting. We sat for a while the other day, and you know, it was our first meeting, and so I'm trying to figure out like, okay, well, what's this all about? And it's the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
And you know, usually the narrative arc looks like this, right? It's very kind of like, oh, it goes up and then it goes down, you know. But hers is kind of like, and we found out through talking that she's dyslexic and she thinks like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
And her work is actually a result of that thinking process. So we are going to create a narrative that's not linear, but it still has a pattern that people can understand. So.
And then it relates to the art also.
Yeah.
And then like creative visual way, I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What else should I ask?
I'm not sure.
Well, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa.
And let's do that again.
Sure. And good luck to you with your business.
Let's do the ending again.
Oh, let's do the ending again. Okay.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah, I love what you do, and I want to support you supporting other creative people.
Thank you. Excellent plug. Bye.
Bye.